Ennio Morricone, Grand Officer OMRI, is an Italian composer, orchestrator, conductor and former trumpet player, who has written music for more than 500 motion pictures and television series, as well as contemporary classical works. His career includes a wide range of composition genres, making him one of the world's most versatile, prolific and influential film composers of all time. Morricone's music has been used in more than 60 award-winning films. Born in Rome, Morricone's absolute music production includes over 100 classical pieces composed since 1946. During the late 1950s he served as a successful studio arranger for RCA. He orchestrated over 500 songs with them and worked with musicians such as Paul Anka, Chet Baker and Mina. However, Morricone gained worldwide fame by composing the music for Italian westerns by directors such as Sergio Leone, Duccio Tessari and Sergio Corbucci, including the Dollars Trilogy, A Pistol for Ringo, The Big Gundown, Once Upon a Time in the West, The Great Silence, The Mercenary, A Fistful of Dynamite and My Name is Nobody. During the 1960s and 70s, Morricone composed music for many film genres, ranging from comedy and drama to action thrillers and historical films. He achieved commercial success with several compositions, including The Ecstasy of Gold, The Theme of the Good, the Bad and the Ugly, A Man with Harmonica, the protest song Here's to You sung by Joan Baez and Chi Mai. Between 1964 and 1980 Morricone was also the trumpet player and a co-composer for the avant-garde free improvisation group Il Gruppo. In 1978, he wrote the official theme for the 1978 FIFA World Cup. From the late 1970s, Morricone excelled in Hollywood, composing music for American directors such as John Carpenter, Brian De Palma, Barry Levinson, Mike Nichols and Oliver Stone. Morricone has composed the music for a number of Academy Award-winning motion pictures including Days of Heaven, The Mission, The Untouchables, Cinema Paradiso and Bugsy. Other noteworthy scores include Exorcist II, The Heretic, The Thing, Casualties of War, In the Line of Fire, Disclosure, Wolf, Bulworth, Mission to Mars and Ripley's Game. In the 1980s and 90s, Morricone continued to compose music for European directors. Morricone is associated with the Italian director Giuseppe Tornatore, and has composed music for many of his films, including Cinema Paradiso. His more recent works include scores for the television series Carol and the End of a Mystery, 72 Meters and Fateless. In the 21st century, Morricone's music has been reused for television and in movies including Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill, Death Proof, Inglourious Basterds and Django Unchained. In 2007, Morricone received the Academy Honorary Award for his magnificent and multifaceted contributions to the art of film music. He has been nominated for a further 5 Oscars during 1979 and 2001. Morricone has won 3 Grammy Awards, 2 Golden Globes, 5 BAFTAs during 1979 and 92, 10 David di Donatello, 11 Nastro d'Argento, 2 European Film Awards, the Golden Lion Honorary Award and the Polar Music Prize in 2010. Early life, Morricone was born in Rome, the son of Libra and his musician father Mario. His family came from Arpino, near Frosinone. Morricone, who had 4 siblings, Adriana, Aldo, Maria and Franco, lived in the Trastevere Quarter in the center of Rome, with his parents. Mario was a trumpet player who worked professionally in different light music orchestras, while Libra set up a small textile business. Morricone wrote his first compositions when he was 6 years old and was encouraged to develop his natural talents. Classical education. His first teacher was Mario Morricone, who taught him how to read music and also play a few instruments. Luckily, Morricone's musical inclinations and talent proved to be natural as well as precocious and he started composing music at the age of 6. Compelled to take up the trumpet, he entered the National Academy of Santa Cecilia, to take trumpet lessons under the guidance of Umberto Semprini. Morricone formally entered the conservatory in 1940 when he was 12, enrolling in a 4-year harmony program. He completed it within 6 months. He studied the trumpet, composition, and choral music, and direction under Goffredo Petrassi, who influenced him. Morricone has since dedicated his concert pieces to Petrassi. After he graduated, he continued to work in classical composition and arrangement. In 1946, he received his diploma in trumpet, and in the same year he composed Il Mattino for voice and piano on a text by Fukico, first in a group of 7 youth leader. In the following years, he continued to write music for the theatre as well as classical music for voice and piano, such as Imitation, based on a text by Italian poet Giacomo Leopardi, Intimita, based on a text by Olentodni, Distacco I, and Distacco II with words by Ugnali, Oboe Sommaso for baritone and 5 instruments with words by poet Salvatore Quasimodo and Vera Lamorti, for contralto and piano, based on a text by novelist Sepovese. Career. Early, in 1953 Morricone was asked by Gorny Kramer and Lelio Luttazzi to write an arrangement for some medleys in an American style for a series of evening radio shows. The composer continued with the composition of other serious classical pieces, thus demonstrating the flexibility and eclecticism which will always be an integral part of his character. Many orchestral and chamber compositions date, in fact, from the period between 1954 and 1959, Musica per archi e pianoforte, Invenzione, Canoni Ricerca per piano. Sestetto per flauto, oboe, fagotto, violino, viola e violoncello, 12 variazioni per oboe, violoncello e piano. Trio per clarinetto, corno e violoncello. Variazione su un tema di Frescobaldi. Quattro pezzi per chitarra. Distanze per violino, violoncello e piano. Musica per 11 violini, to study per flauto, clarinetto e fagotto. And the Concerto per orchestra, dedicated to his teacher Goffredo Petrassi. Morricone soon gained popularity by writing his first background music for radio dramas and quickly moved into film. Composing for radio, television and pop artists, in 1956, Morricone started to support his family by playing in a jazz band and arranging pop songs for the Italian broadcasting service RAI. He was hired by RAI in 1958, but quit his job on his first day at work when he was told that broadcasting of music composed by employees was forbidden by a company rule. Subsequently, Morricone became a top studio arranger at RCA, working with Renato Rasel, Rita Pavone, and Mario Lanza. Throughout his career Morricone has composed songs for several national and international pop artists including Gianni Morandi, Alberto Linello, Bidado Vianello, Nora Orlandi, Jimmy Fontana, Rita Pavone, Catherine Spork, Luigi Tenco, Gino Paoli, Renato Rasel, Paul Anka, Amir Stewart, Rosie Arman, Milva, Francesco Hardy, Myra Matthew and Demis Roussos. In 1963 the composer co-wrote the music for the composition Ogni Volta, a song that was performed by Paul Anka for the first time during the Festival di San Remo in 1964. This song was arranged and conducted by Morricone and sold over 3 million copies worldwide, including 1 million copies in Italy alone. Another particular success was his composition, Se Telefonando. Performed by Mina, it was a standout track of Studio Uno 66, the 5th biggest-selling album of the year 1966 in Italy. Morricone's sophisticated arrangement of Se Telefonando was a combination of melodic trumpet lines, Hal Blaine Euro-style drumming, a string set, a 60s Europop female choir, and intensive subsonic-sounding trombones. The Italian Hit Parade No. 7 song had 8 transitions of tonality building tension throughout the chorus. During the following decades, the song was covered by several performers in Italy and abroad, most notably by Francesco Hardy and Ivor Zanicki, Delta 5, Vanessa and the O's, and Neil Hannon. Francesco Hardy, Mon Ami La Rose cite in the Reader's Poll conducted by the La Repubblica newspaper to celebrate Mina's 70th anniversary in 2010, 30,000 voters picked the track as the best song ever recorded by Mina. In 1987 Morricone co-wrote It Couldn't Happen Here with the Pet Shop Boys. Other notable compositions for international artists include, La Mita di Me and Immagina by Ruggero Raimondi, Liberal More performed by Zucchero, Love Affair by K.D. Lang, Ha fatto un sogno by Antonello Venditti, Di Pier to the First by Tiziano Tosca Donati, Come on Fume 2, Un Canto and Conradian by Andrea Bocelli, Riccarda and Salmo by Angelo Branualdi and My Heart and I by Sting. First film scores. After graduating in 1954, Morricone started writing and arranging music as a ghostwriter for films credited to other already well-known composers, while also arranging for many light music orchestras of the RAI television network, working most notably with Armando Trovagili and Carlo Savina. He occasionally adopted anglicized pseudonyms, such as Dan Savio and Leo Nichols. In 1959, Morricone was the conductor for Mario Nascimbene's score to Morte di Union Amico, an Italian drama directed by Franco Rossi. In the same year, he composed music for the theatre show Il Lietto Fine by Luciano Salse. The 1960s began on a positive note. 1961 marked in fact his real film debut with Luciano Salse's Il Federale. In an interview with American composer Fred Karlin, Morricone discussed his beginnings, stating, "My first films were light comedies or costume movies that required simple musical scores that were easily created, a genre that I never completely abandoned even when I went on to much more important films with major directors." Il Federale marked the beginning of a long-run collaboration with Luciano Salse. In 1962 Morricone composed the jazz-influenced score for Salse's comedy La Voglia Matta. That year Morricone arranged also Italian singer Eduardo Vianello's summer hit Pin, Fusali Occhioli, a cha-cha song, peppered with added water effects, unusual instrumental sounds and unexpected stops and starts. Morricone wrote more works in the climate of the Italian avant-garde. A few of these compositions have been made available on CD, such as Art, his trumpet concerto dedicated to the soloist Mauro Ma, one of his favorite musicians. Some have yet to be premiered. Gruppo di Improvvisazione di Nuova Consonanza, from 1964 up to their eventual disbandment in 1980, he was part of Gruppo di Improvvisazione di Nuova Consonanza, a group of composers who performed and recorded avant-garde free improvisations. The Rome-based avant-garde ensemble was dedicated to the development of improvisation and new music methods. The ensemble functioned as a laboratory of sorts, working with anti-musical systems and noise techniques in an attempt to redefine the new music ensemble and explore new consonants. Known as the group, or Il Gruppo, they released 7 albums across the Deutsche Grammophon, RCA and Cramps labels, Gruppo di Improvvisazione Nuova Consonanza, The Private Sea of Dreams, Improvisation, The Feedback, Improvvisazione e Formazione Variate, Nuova Consonanza and Musica su Schemi. Perhaps the most famous of these is their album entitled The Feedback, which combines free jazz and avant-garde classical music with funk. The album is frequently sampled by hip-hop DJs and is considered to be one of the most collectible records in existence, often fetching over $1,000 at auction. Morricone played a key role in the group and was among the core members in its revolving lineup. In addition to serving as their trumpet player, he directed them on many occasions and they can be heard on a large number of his scores from the 1970s. Held in high regard in avant-garde music circles, they are considered to be the first experimental composers collective, their only peers being the British improvisation collective AMM. Their influence can be heard in free improvising ensembles from the European movement including Evan Parker Electro-Acoustic Ensemble, the Swiss electronic free improvisation group Voice Crack, John Zorn and in the techniques of modern classical music and avant-garde jazz groups. The ensemble's groundbreaking work informed their work in composition. The ensemble did also perform in varying capacities with Morricone adding noise to some of his 60s and 70s Italian soundtracks, including A Quiet Place in the Country and Cold Eyes of Fear. Composing for comedy pictures, his earliest scores were Italian light comedy and costume pictures, where Morricone learned to write simple, memorable themes. During the 60s he composed the scores for comedies such as Dino Risi's Il Successo, Lino Atma One Quarter Les I Basili, Franco Indovina's Menage l'Italiana and Libai. These scores include cheerful tunes, some pop arrangements, lounge jazz and often dazzling vocals, all of them featuring a Morricone flair. His best-known scores for comedies includes L'Arpeggio Foals and L'Arpeggio Foals 2, both directed by Permildo Molinero, Il Ad 1, Georges Lautner's L'Arpeggio Foals 3, The Wedding, Pedro Almodovar Vase Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, and Warren Beatty's Bulworth. Morricone has never ceased to arrange and write music for comedies. In 2007, he composed a light-hearted score for the Italian romantic comedy Tutta Done della Mia Vita by Simona Izzo, the director who co-wrote the Morricone-scored religious mini-series Il Papabuono. Spaghetti westerns, though his first films were undistinguished, Morricone's arrangement of an American folk song intrigued director and former schoolmate Sergio Leone. Before being associated with Leone, Morricone had already composed some music for less-known Western movies such as Gunfight at Red Sands/Duel in El Texas. In 1962 Morricone met American folk singer Peter Tevis, who is credited with singing the lyrics of the Morricone's songs such as A Gringo Like Me, and Lonesome Billy. Association with Sergio Leone, the turning point in Morricone's career took place in 1964, the year in which his third child, Andrea Morricone, also a film composer, was born. Film director Sergio Leone hired Morricone, and together they created a distinctive score to accompany Leone's different version of the Western, A Fistful of Dollars. The Dollars Trilogy. As budget strictures limited Morricone's access to a full orchestra, he used gunshots, cracking whips, whistle, voices, Jew's harp, trumpets, and the new Fender electric guitar, instead of orchestral arrangements of Western standards a la John Ford. Morricone used his special effects to punctuate and comically tweak the action, cluing in the audience to the taciturn man's ironic stance. Though sonically bizarre for a movie score, Morricone's music was viscerally true to Leone's vision. As memorable as Leone's close-ups, harsh violence, and black comedy, Morricone's work helped to expand the musical possibilities of film scoring. Morricone was initially billed on the film as Dan Savio. A Fistful of Dollars came out in Italy in 1964 and was released in America 3 years later, greatly popularizing the so-called spaghetti western genre. For the American release, Sergio Leone and Ennio Morricone decided to adopt American-sounding names, so they called themselves respectively Bob Robertson and Dan Savio. Over the film's theatrical release, it grossed more than any other Italian film up to that point. The film debuted in the United States in January 1967, where it grossed $4.5 million for the year. It eventually grossed $14.5 million in its American release against its budget of $200 $250,000. With the score of A Fistful of Dollars, Morricone began his 20-year collaboration with his childhood friend Alessandro Alessandroni and his Cantri Moderni. Alessandroni provided the whistling and the twanging guitar on the film's scores, while his Cantri Moderni were a flexible troupe of modern singers. Morricone specifically exploited the solo soprano of the group, Edda Della Orso, at the height of her powers and extraordinary voice at my disposal. The composer subsequently scored Leone's other two Dollars Trilogy spaghetti westerns, For a Few Dollars More and The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. All three films starred the American actor Clint Eastwood as the man with no name and depicted Leone's own intense vision of the mythical West. Some of the music was written before the film, which was unusual. Leone's films were made like that because he wanted the music to be an important part of it. He kept the scenes longer because he did not want the music to end. According to Morricone, this explains why the films are so slow. Despite the small film budgets, the Dollars Trilogy was a box office success. The available budget for The Good, the Bad and the Ugly was about $1,200,000, but it became the most successful film of the Dollars Trilogy, grossing $25,100,000 in the United States and over 2.3 billion lira in Italy alone. Morricone's score became a major success and sold over 3 million copies worldwide. On August 14, 1968, the original score was certified by the RIAA with a golden record for the sale of 500,000 copies in the United States only. Hugo Montenegro's version of the main theme of The Good, The Bad and the Ugly sold over 1 million copies worldwide. Montenegro's album with the same name included a selection of Morricone's compositions from the Dollars Trilogy. In the United States, the album was certified gold by the RIAA on September 9, 1969. The main theme was later sampled by artists such as Cameo, Bon the Bass and LL Cool J. The Ecstasy of Gold became one of Morricone's best-known compositions. The opening scene of Jeff Tremayne's Jackass No. 2, in which the cast is chased through a suburban neighborhood by bulls, is accompanied by this piece. While punk rock band the Ramones used the Ecstasy of Gold as closing theme during their live performances, Metallica uses the Ecstasy of Gold as the introductory music for its concerts since 1983. This composition is also included on Metallica's Live Symphonic album S&M as well as the live album Live Shit, Binge and Purge. An instrumental metal cover by Metallica appeared on the 2007 Morricone tribute album We All Love Ennio Morricone. This metal version was nominated for a Grammy Award in the category of Best Rock Instrumental Performance. In 2009, the Grammy Award-winning hip-hop artist Coolio extensively sampled the theme for his song Change. Once Upon a Time in the West and others. Subsequent to the success of the Dollars Trilogy, Morricone composed also the scores for Once Upon a Time in the West and Leone's last credited Western film A Fistful of Dynamite, as well as the scores for My Name is Nobody and A Genius, Two Partners and a Dupe, produced by Sergio Leone. Morricone's score for Once Upon a Time in the West is one of the best-selling original instrumental scores in the world today, with up to 10 million copies sold, including 1 million copies in France and over 800,000 copies in the Netherlands. One of the main themes from the score, A Man with Harmonica, became worldwide known and sold over 1,260,000 copies in France alone. This theme was later sampled in popular songs such as Beats International's Dub Be Good to Me, and the Orbs ambient single Little Fluffy Clouds. Film composer Hans Zimmer sampled A Man with Harmonica in 2007 as part of his composition Parlay. The collaboration with Leone is considered one of the exemplary collaborations between a director and a composer. Morricone's last score for Leone was for his last film, the gangster drama Once Upon a Time in America. Leone died on April 30, 1989, of a heart attack at the age of 60. Before his death in 1989, Leone was partway through planning a film on the Siege of Leningrad, set during World War II. By 1989, Leone had been able to acquire $100 million in financing from independent backers for the war epic. He had convinced Morricone to compose the film's score. The project was cancelled when Leone died 2 days before he was to officially sign on for the film. In early 2003, Italian filmmaker Giuseppe Tornatore announced he would direct a film called Leningrad. The film has yet to go into production. Association with Sergio Corbucci and Sergio Solima. 2 years after the start of his collaboration with Sergio Leone, Morricone also started to score music for another spaghetti western director, Sergio Corbucci. The composer wrote music for Corbucci's Navajo Joe, The Hellbenders, The Mercenary, The Professional Gun, The Great Silence, Cumpa Plus or Minus Eros, La Banda Js Cronaca Criminal del Far West and What Am I Doing in the Middle of the Revolution? In addition, Morricone composed music for the Western films by Sergio Solima, The Big Gundown, Face to Face, Run, Man, Run, and the 1970 crime thriller Violent City and the Polizio Tesco film Revolver. Other westerns. Other relevant scores for less popular spaghetti westerns include Duelo nel Texas, La Pistole non discutano, A Pistol for Ringo, The Return of Ringo, Giulio Petroni's Death Rides a Horse and Tepipa, A Bullet for the General, Omri Vernal's Guns for San Sebastian, A Sky Full of Stars for a Roof, The Five-Man Army, Don Siegel's Two Mules for Sister Sarah and Buddy Goes West. Dramas and political movies. With Leone's films, Ennio Morricone's name had been put firmly on the map. Most of Morricone's film scores of the 1960s were composed outside the spaghetti western genre, while still using Alessandrone's team. Their music included the themes for Il Malamondo, Slalom and Listen, Let's Make Love. In 1968, Morricone reduced his work outside the movie business and wrote scores for 20 films in the same year. The scores included psychedelic accompaniment for Mario Bava's superhero romp Danger, Diabolik. His talent and creativity were such that many other directors were soon keen to collaborate with him, and in the next few years Morricone scored a lot of films by politically committed directors, collaborating with Marco Bellocchio, Gillo Pontecorvo and Queimada. With Marlon Brando, Roberto Fuenza, Giuseppe Petroni Griffi, Giuliano Montaldo, Mauro Bolognini, Pier Paolo Pasolini and Bernardo Bertolucci. In 1970, Morricone wrote the score for Violent City. That same year, he received his first Nastro d'Argento for the music in Metti una sera a Cena and his second only a year later for Sacco e Vanzetti, in which he had made a memorable collaboration with the legendary American folk singer and activist Joan Baez. His soundtrack for Sacco e Vanzetti contains another well-known composition by Morricone, the folk song Here's to You, sung by Joan Baez. For the writing of the lyrics, Baez was inspired by a letter from Bartolomeo Vanzetti, "Father, yes, I am a prisoner/fear not to relay my crime." The song became a hit in several countries, selling over 790,000 copies in France only. The song was later included in movies such as The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou and in the video game Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots as the closing theme, as well as the recently released gameplay trailer for Metal Gear Solid, Ground Zeroes. In the same year, Morricone composed the score for the less-known drama Madalena by the Polish film director Jerzy Kołowicz, which included its composition Chi Mai. The theme appeared on the million-selling score for Georges Lautner's La Professionnelle, as well as the TV series, An Englishman's Castle and the Life and Times of David Lloyd George. Because of its appearance on the latter, Chi Mai reached number 2 on the UK singles chart in 1981. The single was certified by the BPI with a golden record on May 1, 1981 and sold over 900,000 copies in France alone. Chi Mai is also the name of the online community about Morricone, which offers a repository of information and a free online magazine called Maestro, containing reviews, articles, discoveries and free comments. In the beginning of the 1970s, Morricone achieved success with other singles, including A Fistful of Dynamite and God With Us, having sold respectively 477,000 and 378,000 copies in France only. Between 1967 and 1993 the composer had a long-term collaboration with director Mauro Bolognini. Morricone wrote more than 15 film scores for Bolognini, including Le Strighi, Lo Saluto Naturale, Un Bellissimo Novembre, Matteo, Libera, Amor Mio. Per l'Antouch Scale, La Demo Camellias, Mosca Addio, Gli Indifferenti and La Villa del Vanguard. Horror movies. Ennio Morricone's eclecticism and knack for creating highly poignant, melodic and emotional music found great scope also in horror movies, such as the Baroque thrillers of Dario Argento, From the Bird with the Crystal Plumage, The Cat O' Nine Tails and Four Flies on Grey Velvet to the Stendhal Syndrome. In 1982 Morricone composed also the score for John Carpenter's science fiction horror movie The Thing. Morricone's main theme for the film was reflected in Marco Beltrami's film's score of the prequel of the 1982 film, which was released in 2011. Hollywood career. The Dollars Trilogy was not released in the United States until 1967 when United Artists, who had already enjoyed success distributing the British-produced James Bond films in the United States, decided to release Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns. The American release gave Morricone an exposure in America and his film music became quite popular in the United States. One of Morricone's first contributions to an American director concerned his music for the religious epic film The Bible, in the Beginning by John Huston. According to Sergio Missoli's book Morricone, La Musica, Il Cinema, Morricone wrote about 15 or 16 minutes of music, which were recorded for a screen test and conducted by Franco Ferrara. At first Morricone's teacher Goffredo Petrassi had been engaged to write the score for the great big-budget epic, but Huston preferred another composer. RCA Records then proposed Morricone, who was under contract with them, but a conflict between the film's producer Dino De Laurentiis and RCA occurred. the producer wanted to have the exclusive rights for the soundtrack, while RCA still had the monopoly on Morricone at that time and did not want to release the composer. Subsequently, Morricone's work was rejected because he did not get the OK by RCA to work for Dino De Laurentiis alone. The composer reused the parts of his unused score for the Bible, in the beginning in such films as The Return of Ringo by Duccio Tessari and Alberto Negrin's The Secret of the Sahara. Morricone never left Rome to compose his music and never learned to speak English. But given that the composer has always worked in a wide field of composition genres, from absolute music, which he has always produced, to applied music, working as orchestrator as well as conductor in the recording field, and then as a composer for theatre, radio and cinema, the impression arises that he never really cared that much about his standing in the eyes of Hollywood. 1970–1985, From Two Mules for Sister Sarah to Red Sonja. In 1970, Morricone composed the music for Don Siegel's Two Mules for Sister Sarah, an American-Mexican Western film starring Shirley MacLaine and Clint Eastwood. That year the composer delivered also the score for Phil Karlson's war film Hornet's Nest, starring Rock Hudson. In 1974, Morricone wrote music for some unknown episodes of the science fiction television series Space, 1999, directed by Lee H. Katzin. 3 years later he composed the score for the sequel to William Friedkin's 1973 film The Exorcist, directed by John Boorman, Exorcist II, The Heretic. The horror film was a major disappointment at the box office. The film grossed $30,749,142 in the United States, turning a profit but still disappointing in comparison to the original film's gross. In 1978, the composer worked with Terrence Malick for Days of Heaven, starring Richard Gere. During the lengthy editing process of the romantic drama, which won an Academy Award for Best Cinematography with an additional 3 nominations for the score, Terrence Malick and Billy Weber made use of a temporary score dominated by Morricone's music for the Bernardo Bertolucci film Novecento. Malick also chose the ethereal aquarium music from Camille Saint-Saëns to frame the film. When Malick decided he wanted Morricone to score his movie, the director sent a version of it to Italy with the Novecento temp track in place. Morricone agreed to the assignment and Malick flew to Italy because the composer did not fly, so would not travel to the United States. Malick took the movie over to Morricone in Italy and Morricone was writing for Days of Heaven the whole time. Afterwards they scored the music in Italy. In Days of Heaven, Morricone's elegiac music coexists with pre-existing selections. Despite the fact that Morricone has produced some of the most popular and widely imitated film music ever written throughout the 1960s and 70s, Days of Heaven earned him his first Oscar nomination for Best Original Score, with his score up against Jerry Goldsmith's The Boys from Brazil, Dave Grusin's Heaven Can Wait, Giorgio Moroder's Midnight Express and John Williams' Superman, the movie at the Oscar ceremonies in 1979. In 1979, Morricone provided the music for the thriller Bloodline, directed by Terence Young, best known for directing the James Bond films Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Thunderball. Subsequently the composer was asked to score Michael Ritchie's The Island, Gordon Willis's thriller Windows, Andrew Bergman's comedy So Fine starring Ryan O'Neal, Samuel Fuller's controversial drama film White Dog and Thieves After Dark, Jerry London's critically acclaimed TV movie The Scarlet and the Black, starring Gregory Peck, and Richard Fleischer's box office bomb Red Sonja, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Brigitte Nielsen, 1986 onwards. From The Mission to Django Unchained, Morricone's most fruitful and often long-term collaborations have been with Hollywood-related directors such as Brian De Palma, Barry Levinson, Warren Beatty, Oliver Stone and especially Roland Joffe. Copyright, for whom Morricone wrote one of his best-known scores, the highly evocative soundtrack for The Mission. Association with Roland Joffe. Copyright. The Mission, directed by Joffe. Copyright, was about a piece of history considerably more distant, as Spanish Jesuit missionaries see their work undone as a tribe of Paraguayan natives fall within a territorial dispute between the Spanish and Portuguese. Morricone's score is considered as an example of an absolute pinnacle of what music can do for a film, and what a soundtrack album can do to enrich the listener's life. At one point the score was one of the world's best-selling film scores, selling over 3 million copies worldwide. Morricone finally received a second Oscar nomination for The Mission. Morricone's original score lost out to Herbie Hancock's coolly arranged jazz on Bertrand Tavernier's Round Midnight. It was considered as a surprising win and a controversial one, given that much of the music in the film was pre-existing. Morricone stated the following during a 2001 interview with The Guardian: "I definitely felt that I should have won for The Mission. Especially when you consider that the Oscar winner that year was Round Midnight, which was not an original score. It had a very good arrangement by Herbie Hancock, but it used existing pieces. So there could be no comparison with The Mission. There was a theft." His score for The Mission was ranked at number 1 in a poll of the all-time greatest film scores. The top 10 list was compiled by 40 film composers such as Michael Giacchino and Carter Burwell. The score is ranked 23rd on the AFI's list of 25 greatest film scores of all time. The composer wrote also the music for 3 other movies by Joffer: copyright Fat Man and Little Boy, City of Joy, and the opening film for the 2000 Cannes Film Festival, Veit, starring Gar, copyright Rad Depardieu, Uma Thurman and Tim Roth. Association with Brian De Palma and Barry Levinson. On 3 occasions, Brian De Palma worked with Morricone: The Untouchables, the 1989 war drama Casualties of War, and the science fiction film Mission to Mars. De Palma's The Untouchables, starring rising star Kevin Costner as Elliot Ness, Robert De Niro as Al Capone and the Oscar-winning Sean Connery, was released in 1987. Morricone's score for The Untouchables resulted in his 3rd nomination for Academy Award for Best Original Score. In a 2001 interview with The Guardian, Morricone stated that he had good experiences with De Palma. "De Palma is delicious. He respects music, he respects composers. For The Untouchables, everything I proposed to him was fine, but then he wanted a piece that I didn't like at all, and of course we didn't have an agreement on that. It was something I didn't want to write, a triumphal piece for the police. I think I wrote 9 different pieces for this in total, and I said, please don't choose the 7th. Because it was the worst. And guess what he chose? The 7th one. But it really suits the movie." Another American director, Barry Levinson, commissioned the composer on 2 occasions. First, for the crime drama Bugsy, starring Warren Beatty, which received 10 Oscar nominations, winning 2 for Best Art Direction, Set Decoration and Best Costume Design. The highest-grossing American movie for which the composer wrote a complete score was for Levinson's Disclosure in 1994, starring Michael Douglas and Demi Moore. He doesn't have a piano in his studio. "I always thought that with composers, you sit at the piano, and you try to find the melody. There's no such thing with Morricone. He hears a melody, and he writes it down. He hears the orchestration completely done," said Barry Levinson in an interview. Other notable Hollywood scores. During his career in Hollywood, Morricone was approached for numerous other projects, including the Gregory Nava drama A Time of Destiny, frantic by Polish-French director Roman Polanski, Franco Zeffirelli's 1990 drama film Hamlet, the neo-noir crime film State of Grace by Phil Joanou, Rampage by William Friedkin, and a romantic dram Love Affair by Warren Beatty. None of the aforementioned films were box office successes, but fortunately Morricone was also commissioned for more successful motion pictures such as In the Line of Fire by Wolfgang Petersen, starring Clint Eastwood and John Malkovich, the horror film Wolf, which featured Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer in the lead roles, and Bulworth by Warren Beatty. In 1996, Morricone composed the music for Lolita and Oliver Stone's U-Turn, starring Sean Penn and Jennifer Lopez. A year later, Ennio Morricone wrote a complete score for the 1998 drama What Dreams May Come, but Vincent Ward found the music too emotional and replaced Morricone by Michael Kamen. One of his last complete scores for an American-related project includes the 2002 thriller Ripley's Game, starring John Malkovich, by Liliana Cavani. Extensive reuse of his music. Besides the 500 original film scores that have been composed by Morricone for movies and television series in a career of over 6 decades, his music is in addition frequently reused in more than 150 other film projects. Morricone's compositions appeared in the German TV series Derek, the live-action comedy film Inspector Gadget, Ally McBeal, The Simpsons, The Sopranos and more recently in Dancing with the Stars. Quentin Tarantino borrowed for several of his films Morricone's music. The main title of Death Rides a Horse can be heard in Kill Bill Volume 1, while Kill Bill Volume 2 contains music originally from For a Few Dollars More, The Good, The Bad and the Ugly, The Mercenary and Navajo Joe. The themes Paranoia Prima, and Unexpected Violence, originally from respectively The Cat O' Nine Tails and The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, were used in Death Proof by Tarantino. In 2010 Tarantino originally wanted Morricone to compose the film score for Inglourious Basterds. Morricone was unable to, because the film's sped-up production schedule conflicted with his scoring of Giuseppe Tornatore's Barriere. However, Tarantino did use 8 tracks composed by Morricone in the film, with 4 of them included on the soundtrack. The tracks came originally from Morricone's scores for The Big Gundown, Revolver and Alan Sanfoen. In 2012, Morricone composed the song Ancora Key with lyrics by Italian singer Elisa for Tarantino's Django Unchained, a track that appeared together with 3 existing music tracks composed by Morricone on the soundtrack. Ancora Key was one of the contenders for an Academy Award nomination in the Best Original Song category, but eventually the song was not nominated. On January 4, 2013, Morricone presented Tarantino with a Life Achievement Award at a special ceremony being cast as a continuation of the International Rome Film Festival. Frequent composer for Giuseppe Tornatore, in 1988 Morricone started an ongoing and very successful collaboration with Italian director Giuseppe Tornatore. His first score for Tornatore was for the drama film Cinema Paradiso. The international version of the film won the Special Jury Prize at the 1989 Cannes Film Festival and the 1989 Best Foreign Language Film Oscar. In 2002, the director's cut 173-minute version was released. Morricone received a BAFTA award and a David D. Donatello for his score. After the success of Cinema Paradiso, the composer wrote the music for all subsequent films by Tornatore, the drama film Everybody's Fine, A Pure Formality starring copyright Rad Depardieu and Roman Polanski, The Star Maker, The Legend of 1900 starring Tim Roth, the 2000 romantic drama Malinar and the psychological thriller mystery film La Sconosciuta. More recently, Morricone composed the scores for Barriere, La Porta del Vento in The Best Offer starring Geoffrey Rush, Jim Sturgis and Donald Sutherland. The composer won several music awards for his scores to Tornatore's movies. So, Morricone received a 5th Academy Award nomination and a Golden Globe nomination for Malinar. For Legend of 1900, he won a Golden Globe Award for Best Original Score. Television series: Morricone has worked for television, from a single title piece to variety shows and documentaries to TV series, including Moses the Lawgiver, The Life and Times of David Lloyd George, Marco Polo, The Secret of the Sahara, I Promessi Sposi and Nostromo. He wrote the score for the Mafia television series La Piedra seasons 2 to 10 from 1985 to 2001, including the themes Droga e Sang, La Morale, and La Morale. Morricone worked as the conductor of seasons 3 to 5 of the series. He also worked as the music supervisor for the television project La Bibbia. In the late 1990s, he collaborated with his son Andrea on the Ultimo crime dramas, resulting in Ultimo, Ultimo 2, La Sfida, Ultimo 3, L'Infiltrato and Ultimo 4, L'Occhio del Fuoco. In the 2000s, Morricone continued to compose music for successful television series such as Il Cuore nel Pozzo, Carol, A Man Who Became Pope, La Provinciale, Giovanni Falcone, Pain e Libertà and Cum Union Delfino 1-2. With an estimated 13 million viewers, Carol, A Man Who Became Pope became an incredible success. Morricone wrote additional music for the sequel, Carol, the Pope, the Man, which portrayed Carol's life as Pope from his papal inauguration to his death. Both scores were originally released respectively in 2005 and 2006. 1 year later, a double-disc album with both scores is released. Recent works: in 2003, Morricone scored another epic, for Japanese television, called Musashi and was the Taika drama about Miyamoto Musashi, Japan's legendary warrior. A part of his applied music is now applied to Italian television films. Morricone provided the string arrangements on Morris's Dear God Please Help Me from the album Ringleader of the Tormentors in 2006. Since 2004, Morricone wrote music for almost exclusively Italian television movies and mini-series, especially for directors such as Giuseppe Tornatore, Alberto Negron, Giuliano Montaldo and Franz di Rosa. In 2008, the composer recorded music for a Lancia commercial, featuring Richard Gere and directed by Harold Zwart. Tarantino originally wanted Morricone to compose the soundtrack for his film, *Inglourious Basterds*. However, Morricone refused because of the sped-up production schedule of the film. Tarantino did use several Morricone tracks from previous films in the soundtrack. Morricone instead wrote the music for Barria, La Porta del Vento by Tornatore. It was the second time Morricone's turned down the director. He also turned down an offer to write some music for Pulp Fiction in 1994. In spring and summer 2010, Morricone worked with Hayley Westenra for a collaboration on her album Paradiso. The album features new songs written by Morricone, as well as some of his best-known film compositions of the last 50 years. Hayley recorded the album with Morricone's orchestra in Rome during the summer of 2010. In 2012, Morricone collaborated with international pop classical crossover singer-songwriter Romina Arena, supporting her on the making of a new album which includes a collection of all of his greatest movie scores reinterpreted by Arena's own voice and lyrics. The album is entitled Morricone Uncovered and was released on September 18, 2012, by Perseverance Records. Morricone composed the music for the Best Of by Giuseppe Tornatore. He is also attached to write the score for the upcoming movie by Tornatore, Leningrad. On October 24, 2012, Morricone's management announced that the composer is set to score the upcoming animated movie The Canterville Ghost, from producers Robert Chandler and Gina Carter, directed by Kim Burden. Orchestrating, conducting and live performing. Before receiving his diplomas in trumpet, composition and instrumentation from the conservatory, Morricone was already active as a trumpet player, often performing in an orchestra that specialized in music written for films. After completing his education at St. Cecilia, the composer honed his orchestration skills as an arranger for Italian radio and television. In order to support himself, he moved to RCA in the early 60s and entered the front ranks of the Italian recording industry. Since 1964, Morricone was also a founding member of the Rome-based avant-garde ensemble Gruppo di Improvvisazione di Nuova Consonanza. During the existence of the group, Morricone performed several times with the group as trumpet player. To ready his music for live performance, he joined smaller pieces of music together into longer suites. Rather than single pieces, which would require the audience to applaud every few minutes, Morricone thought the best idea was to create a series of suites lasting from 15 to 20 minutes, which form a sort of symphony in various movements, alternating successful pieces with personal favorites. In concert, Morricone normally has 180 to 200 musicians and vocalists under his baton, performing multiple genre-crossing collections of music. Rock, symphonic and ethnic instruments share the stage. On September 20, 1984, Morricone conducted the Orchestre National des Pays de la Loire at Cine Copyright Symphony 84 in the French concert hall Salle Pleyel in Paris. He performed some of his best-known compositions such as Metti una sera a Cena, Novecento and the Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Michel Legrand and Georges Delis performed on the same evening. On October 15, 1987, Morricone gave a concert in front of 12,000 people in the Sportpaleis in Antwerp, Belgium, with the Dutch Metropole Orchestra and the Italian operatic soprano Alide Maria Salvator. A live album with a recording of this concert was released in the same year. On June 9, 2000, Morricone came to the Flanders International Film Festival Ghent to conduct his music together with the National Orchestra of Belgium. During the concert's first part, the screening of The Life and Death of King Richard III was accompanied with live music by Morricone. It was the very first time that the score was performed live in Europe. The second part of the evening consisted of an anthology of the composer's work. The event took place on the eve of Euro 2000, the European Football Championship in Belgium and the Netherlands. Morricone performed over 200 concerts as of 2001. Since 2001, the composer has been on a world tour, the latter part sponsored by Giorgio Armani, with the Orchestra Roma Sinfonietta, touring London, Paris, Verona, and Tokyo. Morricone performed his classic film scores at the Munich Philharmonie in 2005 and Hammersmith Apollo Theatre in London, UK, on December 1 and 2, 2006. He made his North American concert debut on January 29, 2007, at the Auditorio Nacional in Mexico City and 4 days later at Radio City Music Hall in New York City. The previous evening, Morricone had already presented at the United Nations a concert comprising some of his film themes, as well as the cantata Voci dal Silenzio to welcome the new Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon. A Los Angeles Times review bemoaned the poor acoustics and opined of Morricone, his stick technique is adequate, but his charisma as a conductor is zero. Morricone, though, has said, conducting has never been important to me. If the audience comes for my gestures, they had better stay outside. On December 12, 2007, Morricone conducted the Orchestra Roma Sinfonietta at the Wiener Staatshall in Vienna, presenting a selection of his own works. Together with the Roma Sinfonietta and the Belfast Philharmonic Choir, Morricone performed at the opening concerts of the Belfast Festival at Queen's, in the Waterfront Hall on October 17 and 18, 2008. Morricone and Orchestra Roma Sinfonietta also held a concert at the Belgrade Arena on February 14, 2009. On April 10, 2010, Morricone conducted a concert at the Royal Albert Hall in London with the Orchestra Roma Sinfonietta and the Crouch End Festival Chorus. On August 27, 2010, he conducted a concert in Hungary, and on September 11 in Verona. On February 26, 2012, Morricone made his Australian debut when he conducted the Western Australian Youth Orchestra together with a 100-voice chorus at the Burswood Theatre, in Perth. On March 2, 2012, he conducted the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra at Elder Park, Adelaide as part of the Adelaide Festival of Arts. On December 22, 2012, Morricone conducted the 85-piece Belgian orchestra Orchestre de Lage and a 100-piece choir during a 2-hour concert in the Sportpaleis in Antwerp. In November 2013, Morricone began a world tour to coincide with the 50th anniversary of his film music career and performed in locations such as the Crocus City Hall in Moscow, Santiago, Chile, Berlin, Germany, Budapest, Hungary, and Vienna. Back in June 2014, Morricone had to cancel a U.S. tour in New York and Los Angeles due to a back procedure done back on February 20. Morricone postponed the rest of his world tour and will resume it this autumn. Forum Music Village. In the late 1960s, Morricone and 3 other Italian composers founded Forum Music Village, previously called Autophonic Recording Studio. The recording studio has some peculiarities. One of them is the ability to record a church organ directly to the studio. Morricone has been using the studio to create his scores for the past 40 years. The studio has hosted many directors who have worked alongside him, including Brian De Palma, Oliver Stone and Barry Levinson. The Academy Award-winning scores of Il Postino, The Postman by Louis Bacalov and Life is Beautiful by Nicola Piovani were recorded in Studio A of Forum Music Village. Notable artists who have recorded at Forum Music Village are Quincy Jones, John and Vangelis, Placido Domingo, Andrea Bocelli, Red Hot Chili Peppers, will.i.am, Yo-Yo Ma, Morrissey, Bruno Nicolai, Alessandro Alessandroni, Goblin, Pino Donaggio, Nicola Piovani, Danger Mouse, Daniel Luppe and Cher. Personal life. On October 13, 1956, he married Maria Travia, whom he had met in 1950 and had his first son, Marco, in 1957. Travia has written lyrics to complement her husband's pieces. Her works include the Latin texts for The Mission. They have 3 sons and a daughter, in order of birth: Marco, Alessandra, the conductor and film composer Andrea, and Giovanni Morricone, a filmmaker, who lives in New York City. Influence and modern references. Morricone's influence also extends into the realm of pop music. Hugo Montenegro had a hit with a version of the main theme from The Good, the Bad and the Ugly in both the United Kingdom and the United States. This was followed by his album of Morricone's music in 1968. Aside from his music having been sampled by everyone from rappers to electronic outfits, Morricone wrote Se Telefonando, which became Italy's 5th biggest-selling record of 1966 and has since been re-recorded by Francesco Hardy, among many others, and scored the strings for Dear God, Please Help Me on Morris's 2006 Ringleader of the Tormentors album. Morricone's film music was also recorded by many artists. John Zorn recorded an album of Morricone's music, The Big Gundown, with Keith Rosenberg in the mid-1980s. Lyricists and poets have helped convert some of his melodies into a songbook. Morricone collaborated with world music artists, like Portuguese fado singer Duccio Ponce and virtuoso cellist Yo-Yo Ma, who both recorded albums of Morricone classics with the Roma Sinfonietta Orchestra and Morricone himself conducting. The album Yo-Yo Ma Plays Ennio Morricone sold over 130,000 copies in 2004. In 1990, the American singer Amir Stewart, best known for the 1979 disco hit Knock on Wood, recorded a tribute album entitled Pearls. Amir Stewart sings Ennio Morricone for the RCA label, including a selection of the composer's best-known songs. Since the mid-1980s, Stewart resides in Italy. The Pearls album features Rome's Philharmonic Orchestra and was co-produced by Morricone himself. Metallica uses Morricone's The Ecstasy of Gold as an intro at their concerts. The San Francisco Symphony Orchestra also played it on Metallica's symphonic rock album S&M. The theme from A Fistful of Dollars is also used as a concert intro by the Mars Volta. The Spaghetti Western Orchestra is Morricone's tribute band started in Australia. Anna Carville has admitted Morricone's influence. In 2007, the tribute album We All Love Ennio Morricone was released, featuring performances by various artists, including Sarah Brightman, Andrea Bocelli, Celine Dion, Bruce Springsteen and Metallica. Morricone inspired the namesake of Morricone Youth, a New York band dedicated to playing music from film and television, founded by musician and radio host Devin E. Levins. In addition to composers like Lalo Schifrin and Jerry Goldsmith, the band has performed music from a large spectrum of Morricone's film career, ranging from his work in the spaghetti westerns to The Exorcist II, as well as original Morricone-inspired pieces. On their 2008 album Red of Tooth and Claw, the independent rock band Murder by Death composed and included a song as a theme tribute to Morricone entitled Theme. British band Muse cites Morricone as an influence for the songs City of Delusion, Hoodoo, and Knights of Sidonia on their album Black Holes and Revelations. The band has recently started playing the song Man with a Harmonica Live played by Chris Wolstenham, as an intro to Knights of Sidonia. In January 2010, tenor Donald Braswell II released his album We Fall and We Rise Again, on which he presented his tribute to Morricone with his original composition entitled Ennio. The score for the Thing 2011 prequel film composed by Marco Beltrami was inspired and uses several elements from Morricone's original soundtrack from the 1982 film of the same name. Discography. Worldwide sales. Ennio Morricone has sold well over 70 million records worldwide during his career that spanned over 6 decades, including 5 million albums and singles in France, over 3 million in the United States and more than 2 million albums in Korea. In 1971, the composer received his first golden record for the sale of 1 million records in Italy and a Targa d'Oro for the worldwide sales of 22 million. Top worldwide film grosses. Ennio Morricone has been involved with at least 14 different movies grossing over $25 million at the box office, *= US only figures, Other successful movies with Morricone's work are Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, Inglourious Basterds and Django Unchained, though the tracks used are sampled from older pictures. Selected long-time collaborations with directors, prizes and awards. Academy Awards. Ennio Morricone received his first Academy Award nomination in 1979 for the score to Days of Heaven. In 1984, the U.S. distributor of Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America reportedly failed to file the proper paperwork so that Morricone's score, regarded as one of his best, would be eligible for consideration for an Academy Award. 2 years later, Morricone received his second Oscar nomination for The Mission. He received also Oscar nominations for his scores to The Untouchables, Bugsy and Malinar. Morricone and Alex North are the only composers to receive the honorary Oscar since the award's introduction in 1928. Ennio Morricone received the Honorary Academy Award on February 25, 2007, presented by Clint Eastwood, for his magnificent and multifaceted contributions to the art of film music. With the statuette came a standing ovation. In conjunction with the honor, Morricone released a tribute album, We All Love Ennio Morricone, that featured as its centerpiece Celine Dion's rendition of I Knew I Loved You, which he performed at the ceremony. Behind-the-scenes studio production and recording footage of I Knew I Loved You can be viewed in the debut episode of the QuincyJones.com podcast. The lyric, as with Morricone's love affair, had been penned by Oscar-winning husband and wife duo Marilyn and Alan Bergman. Morricone's acceptance speech was in his native Italian tongue and was interpreted by Clint Eastwood, who stood to his left. Eastwood and Morricone had in fact met 2 days earlier for the first time in 40 years at a reception. AFI. In 2005, 4 film scores by Ennio Morricone were nominated by the American Film Institute for an honored place in the AFI's top 25 of best American film scores of all time. His score for The Mission was ranked 23rd in the top 25 list. Golden Globes, Italian Golden Globes, Grammy Awards. Morricone was nominated 5 times for a Grammy Award. In 2009, the Recording Academy inducted his score for The Good, the Bad and the Ugly into the Grammy Hall of Fame. Nastro d'Argento, ASCAP Awards, BAFTA Awards, CAR Copyright Czar Awards, David Award, European Film Awards, LAFCA, selected other awards. Sources: Horace, B. Music from the Movies, Film Music Journal Double Issue 45/46, 2005, ISNA 0967-8131, Miceli, Sergio. Morricone, La Musica, Il Cinema. Milan, Mucchi Ricordi, 1994, ISBN 978-88-7592-398-3, Miceli, Sergio. Morricone, Ennio. The New Grove Dictionary of Music and Musicians, 2nd edition, edited by Stanley Sadie and John Tyrrell. London, Macmillan Publishers. Poppy, R., M. Pecorari. Dizionario del Cinema Italiano. I Film Volume 3. Dal 1960 al 1969. Gremmers, 1993, ISBN 97880855935. Poppy, R., M. Pecorari. Dizionario del Cinema Italiano. I Film Volume 4. Dal 1970 al 1979 AL. Gremmers, 1996, ISBN 9788086059353. Poppy, R., M. Pecorari. Dizionario del Cinema Italiano. I Film Volume 4. Dal 1970 al 1979 MZ. Gremmers, 1996, ISBN 9788086059698. Poppy, R., M. Pecorari. Dizionario del Cinema Italiano. I Film Volume 5. Dal 1980 al 1989 AL. Gremmers, 2000, ISBN 97880877424,235. Poppy, R., M. Pecorari. Dizionario del Cinema Italiano. iFilm Volume 5. DAL 1980 AL 1989 MZ. Gremers, 2000, ISBN 97888477424,297, references. Further reading, Lhasa, Anne, and Jean Lhasa, Ennio Morricone, Biography. Les Planches. Lausanne, Fava. Paris, Diff. Interforum, 1989. ISBN 978-2-8289-0418-0. Sorbo, Lorenzo, The Dramatic Functions of Italian Spaghetti Western Soundtracks, a comparison between Ennio Morricone and Francesco de Marci in, Stop, Sebastian. Film in Concert. Film scores and their relation to classical concert music. GLAG 1/4 CKSSTADT, Germany, VWH Verlag PPA 161 €174. ISBN A978-3-86488-060-5. Wagner, Horsen. Improvisation als Wettersdorzdennung des Begriffs der literarischen Musik Franco-Evangelisti und die Improvisationsgruppe Nova Consonanza. In A Hin zu einer neuen Welt, Notate zu Franco-Evangelisti, edited by Harold Muanes 48-60, 2002. Zabra 1/4 CKEN, for Verlag. ISBN 978-3-89727-177-7. Webb, Michael D. Italian 20th Century Music, The Quest for Modernity. London, Kahn and Averill. ISBN 978-1-871082-89-0. Wenguang Han, Ennio Morricone Fans Handbook, 2013. ISBN 978-988-16794-2-0. External links, official website, Ennio Morricone at the Internet Movie Database, Ennio Morricone MySpace, the Ennio Morricone Online Community, #TE #TE, Ennio Morricone by Nick Harcourt at Los Angeles Times Magazine, Morricone Fans, streaming audio of Morricone's The Man with the Harmonica, from his soundtrack to Once Upon a Time in the West.